All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the candidate forum for the positions of Josephine County Commissioner. My name is Terry Hopkins. I proudly serve as the President and CEO of the Grants Pass and Josephine County Chamber of Commerce. I'd like to thank the Daily Courier for joining me to host this forum. For us, this forum represents the importance of civic engagement and the responsibility we all share in shaping the future of our community. Tonight, we're bringing together the candidates running for County Commissioner so that you, the voters, can better understand their values, their strategies, and how they plan to support our community through their positions in elected leadership. I'm honored to be joined this evening by Edith Decker, features editor of the Daily Courier. Edith's esteemed career has spanned over 30 years with the Daily Courier, and the Chamber has had the privilege of partnering with her on many of these candidate forums. Edith, if I may, I will turn it over to you to introduce the candidates this evening.
Thank you, and welcome everyone. So Josephine County is served by 3 county commissioners, and 2 of those commissioners will be elected in November. Position 2 and Position 3. Neither one of those has an incumbent, so all of these candidates in front of us are candidates and not incumbents. So to introduce the candidates for Position 2, we have Chris Barnett and Colleen Martin. For Position 3, the candidates are Pat Fahey and Ron Smith. So, candidates, thanks for joining us this evening. The format this evening will be to offer each candidate a 2-minute self-introduction. Then we'll come up with a series of questions for you. You'll have 90 seconds on those. And then at the end, 2 minutes for a closing statement. So the timer will go off to yellow and give you a beep when you're at 30 seconds left. When that is over, that 30 seconds, it will turn red and it will begin beeping more insistently at you. So we can begin with our opening comments. We're going to draw names and then sort of just go clockwise. And we begin with the lucky winner, Pat Fahey. Go ahead.
I'd like to start off by thanking the Courier and the Grants Pass Chamber of Commerce for hosting this forum. My name is Pat Fahey, and I'm a candidate for Josephine County Commissioner, Position 3. I'm in this race because I deeply disagree with the priorities and methods of the current commissioners. I know we can do better. I am a native of Josephine County. I was educated here. I married my wife and raised my children here. I've grown my family's business here. I intend to spend the rest of my life here. So what makes me qualified to be your county commissioner? Well, I have a degree in accounting, and I was a licensed public accountant. I've managed projects both large and small for both public and private usage. I built transfer stations, offices, houses, equipment shops, processing centers. I've closed a landfill. I've been involved in the construction of Three Rivers Community Hospital, Reinhardt Volunteer Park, the Weems Library, and the new RCC Science Building. I've served as chairman of the Josephine County Budget Committee. I'm an elected board member of the Road Community College Board, as well as the Josephine Community Library District. I have served on the board of So Ready, and I've actually testified on behalf of the City of Grants Pass in front of the U.S. Congress. I run a software company, an analytic laboratory, and have even started a bank. I've worked and negotiated with cities, counties, the state of Oregon, and the U.S. government. I've been a T-ball coach, a Boy Scout leader, and a Rotarian. All these experiences have helped prepare me to serve as your Josephine County Commissioner. And if elected, I intend to serve all the residents of Josephine County. My name is Pat Fahey, and I'm running for Josephine County Commissioner, and I'm asking for your vote.
Thank you. Mr. Smith.
Good evening. I'd like to thank the Chamber and the Courier for holding this event. It's a very good time. I want to thank the audience for showing up and those watching online. It's important that you get to know your commissioners. I'm Ron Smith, born here in Josephine County. My family settled here over 120 years ago. I do know Josephine County better than most. I understand our problems, situations that we have, I have some solutions for some of them. I'm joined here tonight by my beautiful wife of 20 years. Most of our kids and grandkids live here in the county. That's my motivation for running. Their future. What are they going to have when they grow up? We have some troubling times ahead of us. I've been involved in this county for many years on the people's side, defending our property rights, our liberties, and our freedom from government overreach and intrusion. I believe that property rights are very important, and they seem to be under assault today. I have held numerous meetings in this county to educate and inform the public about policies and regulations that would come down to hurt their freedoms and liberties. I've been a grassroots organizer and a property advocate for about 40 years now. I have about 25 years business management experience in different industries. Today, I'm managing in a commercial sign industry where we service all of Southern Oregon. I believe that the people of Josephine County are outstanding. I believe that we have some situations coming up that are going to be very troubling ahead. Inflation is going to be a challenge for all of us. So we're going to need somebody who wants to manage the budget tight. And I'm sorry, we may have to tighten our belts, just like you're all having to do, because when you buy groceries and you pay for gas, you see it's not what it used to be. Well, I don't see it getting better in the near future. This federal election is very important. I think this election in the county is very important. The difference between me and my opponent is big.
Thank you. Mr. Barnett?
Good evening. Thank you, Daily Courier, and thank you, Chamber of Commerce, for hosting this tonight. And thank you, audience. My name is Chris Barnett. I'm a 43-year resident of Josephine County, graduated from Hidden Valley High School here, started working at 13 as a box boy in a grocery store where on Williams Highway, it's still there, it's Planet Fitness now. I own property here. I'm married to Stephanie Barnett, a Grants Pass native. I have 3 wonderful daughters who are also very active in our community here. I've always been in business and serving in government and public service my entire life. I run and operate 3 businesses: Realty Executives, a real estate franchise; Hamadi.com, which is a franchise; Barnett Investment Properties. I've been with Grants Pass Broadcasting for almost 30 years as a radio announcer for KLDR and KJO Radio, which I love being in the community. Love it. Been in the Air Force for 33 years, serving on active duty, the Oregon Air National Guard, the Air Force Reserve, and now currently serving on the as a command chief for the Air Force Auxiliary Civil Air Patrol, in which I'm on command staff and oversee 6 states with a budget of $76 million annually. The Air Force core values that are instilled in me are service before self and excellence in all we do. In every job or position I have been in, I give back to others, and that fulfillment is why I'm positioned and well-rounded to run for commissioner of the county I love, Josephine County. Education, I've never stopped learning. I currently hold a degree in criminal justice, human resource management. I'm FEMA certified in emergency response, have an FAA pilot license, FCC license for radio, principal broker, and more. I never stop learning. I volunteer as a sheriff and state police volunteer. Been on the board of the Grants Pass Josephine County Chamber of Commerce, board member of the Grants Pass Association of Realtors. I'm a member of many different clubs such as the VFW, American Legion, Chamber of Commerce, and more. I love this town, and I want to bring unity back to this community. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, Ms. Martin.
Good evening. Thanks everybody for being here, and thanks for you that are live streaming. I'm a second-generation Oregonian. I've been married to my husband Ron for almost 38 years in just a couple weeks. We have 4 children that are very active in the community. They're all successful in their own businesses and careers and busy with their very active families. My husband and I were owners of the Photo Den, a photo electronics business here for 27 years. After we sold it, I went to work as a CEO, which is Terry's position, for the Grants Pass Chamber, and then on to working for the Oregon State Chamber as the Chief Operating Officer there. While there, we advocate for business by helping local business communities be at the table in very challenging political environments, similar to what we have experienced here. Along with that, I've been a real estate agent for the past 7 years. While running our family business, I spent years actively involved on local boards and service organizations. Through these experiences and my careers of work, among many other things, I obtained the skills in creating budgets, ensuring adequate resources, strategic planning, making critical decisions, creating solutions for expanding capacity, public image, and advocacy, all important skills for a county commissioner. Currently, I'm serving on the board for Mid-Rogue Foundation, where I work on housing, also on the Grants Pass and Josephine County Collaborative Economic Development Committee. I serve on both the Grants Pass and the Rogue Valley Realtors Rogue Valley Realtors Government Affairs, and I'm a Rotarian. Why am I here tonight? I have an unwavering commitment to the safety of our community. I've helped levies get on the ballots and successfully pass, and the most recent sheriff's district last November. I am ready and have been working on housing solutions for the last few years with our amazing team at Mid-Rogue Foundation. There's so much more that needs to be done, and I have the skills to be there. I want my hometown to be yours as a place to be proud of. I've watched your community evolve, and I know I'm the right person at the right time. Thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you for the introduction, candidates. We will move into the 90 seconds to answer the following questions. Starting off this round, we will begin with Colleen Martin. Colleen, what is your assessment of the level of trust citizens have with county government? What would you do to either maintain or improve that level of trust?
Well, that's a pretty easy one. On a scale of 1 to 10, I would say probably a 4, maybe a 3. I think it's really tough. I think that's not just in this community. It's city, county, especially the state. I think it's federally. Nobody trusts government. It's just that simple. What I think I would do to help with that, I would encourage communications. We've got to have better communications. We've got to have transparency. You've got to have integrity within these departments, people with integrity, people that you trust. When I was at the chamber, we fought a sales tax. We did some polling, and the people that are trusted the most are the police department, the firemen, and then the chambers of commerce. The business community is who the people trust. So we've got to get better at that. I am a business, my background is in business. I've advocated for business, so I think I have a pretty good handle on that.
Great, thank you. Mr. Fahey, same question.
I'd probably echo Colleen. I think it's pretty low at the moment. There's been a lot of decisions made lately that have left people wondering what's going on. I think to reinstate trust, it requires a big outreach effort on the part of the commissioners and the leadership in the county, not just the commissioners, because they need to go out in the community, talk about what we're doing. There's a lot of stuff Josephine County is doing that's not understood by the community at large. When was the last time we had a county commissioners meeting in Cave Junction, or heaven forbid in Wolf Creek? You know, those communities feel like they are just left out. And that's what builds kind of the mistrust about what happens at the county commissioners meeting. If you just watch the live streaming of the commissioners meetings, whether it's legal or the other ones, you know there's a lot that's not being said in front of the camera. The suspicion I think everybody has, there's a lot of communications happen in the background. Can't confirm it, it's just a guess, but the actions are too well coordinated between all the participants. So I think there's a question about that. I think the biggest thing is outreach, and you lead by example. It should be leadership by example. People, if they question, you have to answer the questions.
Wonderful, thank you. And moving to you, Mr. Smith.
Well, I think trust in government at all levels, federal, state, and local, is probably at an all-time low. I don't think that trust has ever come back since COVID lockdowns and mandates forced on people. Trust is something you earn. Trust is something you go out and talk to people and you do things for them and you hear them and you're with their concerns and you'll earn their trust. Getting out in the community, getting the heartbeat of Josephine County, talking to people at all levels, that's how you're going to earn their trust. And then you put that into action. You take action to hear their concerns and take action on them to solve their concerns. You win trust by being a friend. You have to be friendly to people. You have to be willing to go out there and reach out to people. I've gone all over this county, talking to people in the Illinois Valley, Wolf Creek, Williams, Sunny Valley. I've been all over this county for many, many years doing exactly that. getting the heartbeat of this county to see what the people's concerns are. I'm earning the trust of the people even before I'm in there as a commissioner. A lot of people know me and they trust me, and I'll be there for you. I'll take care of your concerns. You call me, I'll answer. I want to earn your trust as your commissioner. Thank you.
And thank you. We're rounding out this round. We'll go to Mr. Barnett.
Thank you, Terry. Well, one of my priorities is putting trust back in government. And how do you do that? Well, you got to lead from the front. You got to be a leader. The military, law enforcement, my business has taught me to be out front, out in the community, be their voice, listen. I was a first sergeant in the military, and people were my business. That's our motto. People is our business. And I go out there and I want to find the pulse of what's going on and fix it. You know, I just had a radio interview earlier today, and he says, so how are you going to get out there in the community? And I go, well, I'm out there every day. And he goes, you are. You're like Visa. You're everywhere. And I'm like, thank you, because I really want to have good roots in our community. That means attending functions. That means going to events. I am all over this county. I try to attend as many functions as I can to support our community. I don't care what it is. I go to those events, and I want to show you, the citizens of Josephine County, that you have a person that's out in your community that you can talk to. I'm approachable, an open door policy. I listen. I'm a multitasker, so I can do technology, emails, texting, I can do it all. But the most thing, I want to have a relationship with you. And that's why I'm running for county commissioners. I want people to trust the representatives that are representing them. So that's one of the main reasons why I'm running. Thank you.
All right, next question begins with Mr. Smith. The question is, what would you do to address the current issues we face with the unhoused population, and what is the county's role in this area?
Okay, to answer that question, first of all, you got to understand jurisdictions. The city is one government, the county is another government. Inside the city, the commissioners have very, very little to say about what goes on. If you look at that homeless problem nationwide, it's primarily a city problem. People aren't out in the middle of the Calamiopsis living in Willards. We don't have any, Grizzly Adams out there. The problem is drugs and mental health. That's what we're never going to solve this homeless problem until we attack the root cause. You can't cure a problem unless you can articulate the problem and get to the root cause. I think a lot of times we look at homeless and we look at a symptom. What's the cause? Cause is drugs, mental health, housing. So I believe a strong economy where we can afford some reasonable price housing, that we support our drug and alcohol treatment in our community. And then, of course, we have to have strong law enforcement to enforce the laws. Problem is with the homelessness, and here's the honest truth. You're never going to solve the homeless problem until you undo the progressive, liberal policies that caused it. Soft on crime, soft on drugs, open borders, catch and release. These things are what's contributed to this problem.
Thank you. Same question to Mr. Barnett.
Thank you for that question. A year ago when I put my candidacy in for county commissioner, I started knowing that the homeless problem is a big issue here in Grants Pass. I've been talking to them. I've been out in the community trying to work with our agencies. How can we help this situation? I reached out to the mayor and I said, even if I'm a county commissioner and I get elected in, how can I work with you to help this problem? I want to be one of those people. 85% of the people that I talk to are substance abuse, okay? That's what they have. 15% are actually homeless. So when we're trying to figure out to deal with the unhoused, first we have to have tougher laws, and our DA and our judges need to, force these people into some type of rehabilitation because they're not doing it on their own. And I talk to them. I look them eye to eye, and my law enforcement background, they're like, how do you know I'm on something right now? I go, because I've been trained to notice that. And I'm like, I feel sorry for you, but you know what? As a bro, I want you to get some help. The Gospel Rescue Mission and some of the other agencies that we have here, there's a lot of people that want to help this issue, and I commend them all. What we have to do is get these people that are hooked on these substances the help they need. True rehabilitation starts with getting them off the drugs. And I know recriminalization is back now, so we can actually do harsher fines, but these people want help, and I want to help them. And I do feel sorry for them, and that's one of the things I'd like to help out with. Thank you.
Thank you.
So
Ms.
there were two
Mar-
parts to the question. Can you repeat it again?
Certainly. What would you do to address the current issues we face with unhoused population, and what is the county's role in this area?
Thanks. So I have been working on housing for years. When I was at the chamber, we saw the housing situation happening then. The homeless were sleeping on our doorsteps. We had to hire Concierge Home and Business Watch to remove them before we could enter our offices. So I've been working on it for years. Midroad Foundation is a nonprofit board that I'm on. Been on that board for 10 years at least. And we bought a piece of property. We have a home that has 6 bedrooms, and it houses seniors that are low income. We have a resident in that house that is in her late 60s. She makes $650 a month. That's all she makes. That's all she can. Where does that person live if you don't help put them into some sort of low-income housing? We are now building, through Midroad Foundation and the help of the county and the city, we've gotten some grants. We've just got a very large grant to build 36 homes. We're building a veterans village with that. What is the role of the county? I disagree with Ron Smith. It's a community problem. It's not a city problem. It's not a county problem. It's a community problem. We all have this problem. We all live with it each and every day, and it's all of us that need to look for solutions, not just pass the blame from one place to the other. The other thing I want to say is it hurt Josephine County when our commissioners did not declare a state of emergency for homelessness.
Thank you. Mr. Fahey.
Should be remembered that the 30-some thousand members that live inside the city of Grants Pass are also county residents. So we definitely have a role to play in solving the homeless problem. The city of Grants Pass and city police have the dubious honor of having to enforce the laws regarding the recriminalization of drug crimes. I know that we have a huge problem in the homeless camps about drug dealers and what have you. I don't know what we have to do. I don't know if it's a discussion with the DA. I don't know if it's a discussion with the chief of police. I don't know if we have to reach out to the state police for help. But we definitely need to at least get the dealers out of those projects. It'll be a challenge. I know that a group of businessmen are very upset about it. I don't blame them. If I had a downtown business and I had to deal with that, I would be upset too. Ron was right in some things that the problem is threefold. It's housing, the cost of housing, it's mental health, and it's a drug addiction. Probably drug addiction is the worst part. But we can't forget that we need to get the help in the mental health part. And part of that somewhat is, do we have enough mental health counselors to serve the job? And we have to remember, if the DA gets tougher on the drug dealers and drug users, how are we going to house them? How much room do we have in our jail? What does that cost? These have to be calculated in, and those are county problems, not just city problems.
Wonderful. Thank you to all. We will begin the next question with Chris Barnett. Chris, Josephine County residents recently passed a levy to support the Sheriff's Department. It is being reported that the tax increase will not be sufficient to build to sustainable 24/7 patrols. How would you assess the need for 24/7 patrols in the county, and what additional funding mechanisms would you be willing to propose?
Great question. And my background's law enforcement. I went on a ride along with the Sheriff's Department and find out how shorthanded they really are. Even with the tax levy being passed, they're going to have a shortfall. I was a volunteer with the Sheriff's Department, state police. These are just citizen volunteers that get trained up to augment the full-time staff. I want to work with Sheriff Daniel and try to get him to start back that Sheriff's Reserve program. Under Sheriff Gilbertson, that program was awesome when we had no money in the county. You guys remember that. It was horrible. We had volunteers step it up, reservists, trained out there, try to do the job the best they can. If we can get a healthy reserve program back up and running again, I really feel that that's free. That's free. That's my time. Just give me some equipment, which we do have. But I'd like to work with Sheriff Daniel on that. That is one thing that we could really prosper on, but we're not doing it. Sure, money's great, but if you don't have the money, think outside the box. So I have mentioned it to Sheriff Daniel. I'd love to work with him and help get that started again. Because most of those reservists are now some of your full-time deputies that you see out and about. And they started as a reservist. Community policing is always great. Funding for those things. You know, I'm a big advocate for public safety. That's one of my main priorities. I will work however we can as a commissioner to try to get the monies to fund our department so you have the public safety that you want. I'm also going to say if we don't have the money, where can we get those resources? I've got some out-of-the-box ideas of extra revenue that I'd like to bring to the table once elected in. But the main goal is start that Sheriff's Reserve program, and I'd love to help with that. Thank you, Terry.
Thank you, Chris. Ms. Martin.
I have worked on the levies. I've worked on getting 3 levies passed, and most recently the district that we just passed in November. Is that enough funding? No. We knew then at 99 cents it was not going to be enough funding. We knew also that if we went for a bigger rate that we wouldn't get it and we wouldn't get it passed. We currently now, for the first time, have 24-hour dispatch. We didn't have that before. We were relying on the state police for that. So we've come a long way in a short time, and that $5 million that the district's going to bring in next year, because we're not realizing that, is going to help. And we've got to give Sheriff Daniel the tools. It's a 3-legged stool. It's the Sheriff's Department, it's the District Attorney's Office, and it's the public defenders. And they have to all work together. And if we don't have that 3-legged stool propped up with the right things, they don't work together well. We have to be able to support all of those. And our district attorney's office is having a really hard time hiring people. There is a task force that the county has formed for looking for funding. I've never attended any meeting. I don't know who's on those meetings. I would like to find that out. I've read that we have that task force. Whether they're active or not, I don't know. But it is something that we've got to do. We've got to build up our tax base with our property taxes and building homes, and that's going to help.
Thank you. Mr. Fahey.
Well, I think there's 2 things. There's the budgetary part about how we prioritize what's important here in Josephine County. It's one of the real concerns I have about the county government as it sits now, and that's they spent $800,000 additionally in IT this last year for cybersecurity, where I think we have a real security problem out in the Sheriff's Department. That money could have fully funded the sheriff, and it would probably funded the public health as well. I think that was misallocation. As far as operational with the Sheriff's Department, I think Chris has a good idea. I think that the reservists wouldn't be a bad thing to implement. But I got to tell you, you really don't want to take law enforcement advice from your local garbage man. It just doesn't work that well. So I think I would have a long conversation with the sheriff. How can we help you? And then let's make sure that the county tax revenue is allocated properly in those things that we think are important. And I value law enforcement.
Thank you. And we will wrap up with Mr. Smith.
Public safety is the first duty of government. The only reason we institute governments in the first place is for public safety, life, liberty, and property. That's what the Declaration of Independence says. That's why we establish governments. Any government does not take care of public safety first is a failing government. So I would give the state a failing mark, because they're the ones that control the budget in this county, not the commissioners. 80% of the budget is what they call pass-through money. Your tax money does not go where you want it to go. If we had control of that budget, we could fully fund our sheriff. Part of the problem, I have a little map here that shows property in Josephine County. 8.7% of the property is private taxed at the high force rate. Most of the land in Josephine County does not get taxed. It's Forest Service land. So we're going to struggle. Jackson County Neville struggles. They have 11 durable growth boundaries. We have 2. So you're going to have a choice. The people are going to have to decide. How much do they want to pay for law enforcement? We have a committee that's set, the Law Enforcement Advisory Committee, that's going to talk about taxing more on that district for the sheriff. It's really up to the people to decide how much they want. Problem is, talking to the sheriff just recently, his patrol fuel cost has increased by $50,000 because of inflation. It's going to be a problem in the future.
Thank you. We're moving on to the next question, and we'll start with Colleen Martin. So this question is, while we're on the topic of law enforcement, the county is responsible for running the jail. What changes, if any, would you suggest for the jail?
Well, again, as Pat said, I'm not a garbage person, but I am a business person. So I would hope to have a relationship with the sheriff that we could look at that. I can't make recommendations to him for the jail. I wouldn't be able to do that. I support it. I want it to be successful. I do know that historically the jail has housed 185 inmates. These days it's housing about 155. So they have room at the inn, and he wants to fill it. He's happy to fill it. But as I said, that three-legged stool isn't working properly, and we've got a district attorney that can't support it, and we've got the state measure ballot 110. We've got the House Bill 4002 that just went into place in September 1st. So those things that are moving along is probably going to fill his beds a little more, but that's something it's really up to the sheriff and more qualified people than all of us to be able to answer that question. But it's a good question. Thanks for making me think hard.
Thanks. Mr. Fahey?
I'm kind of going along Colleen on this. I think the only way we can get through this is working together. I mean, that means the sheriff has to talk to the city PD, has to talk to the DA, has to talk to the local judges, although that's a little bit different animal. And they has to talk to the governments of both the city and the Grants Pass and Cave Junction. So you have to get together and say, what's your priority? Who do you want incarcerated? Is a guy with a second DUI incarcerated, or do you want the guy that's selling fentanyl in the streets incarcerated? So there has to be a little bit of a priority setting there. And unless we're willing to make the sacrifices to pay for who we want incarcerated, we're not going to be successful. So this is one of those things about transparency. That discussion has to be public, and it has to be very public, and the citizens should have a buy-in on it. Who do we want in the streets and who don't we want in the streets? And once again, I'm a garbage man, not a sheriff, so I'd refer back to the sheriff for guidance.
Thank you. Mr. Smith?
Could you repeat the question?
Yes, of course. While on the topic of law enforcement, the county is responsible for running the jail. What changes, if any, would you suggest for the jail?
Are we having a problem in the jail? I don't think there's I don't suggest any changes. That's kind of on the sheriff's privy. He would know best. I mean, they have an undersheriff, he's running the jail. Those guys are going to make that decision. I fully support law enforcement. I fully support the attack he's doing on drugs in our county. We need to, that's the biggest problem we have in the county right now is drugs. But as far as changing the jail, that's really, really not the jurisdiction of a commissioner. I think people a lot of times forget about jurisdiction. The sheriff is his own entity. In fact, he's the most powerful elected official in the county. So as a commissioner, I'm not going to go tell him what to do. But I definitely would work with him. If he's having a problem, let's iron it out. That jail, we have more than enough capacity in that jail. The problem is we have too many drug crimes. Have you read the paper lately? Most of the people arrested are arrested for drugs or being on drugs. We're going to have to solve that problem. I think that problem is going to be your people's question. Is the community sick and tired enough of the drug problem we have that's contributed to our housing, our homeless problem? Are you sick and tired enough because the community is the only one that's going to cure that problem? If I'm a commissioner and I go out there and I put my head on the line to fight that issue, you have to back me up. So do you want to stop it? I'm willing to stop the drug crime because that's really eating up most of our sheriff's budget right there, drugs.
All right, thank you. Mr. Barnett?
Our jail is spectacular. It was built state of the art at the time. I know they're doing some expansion for their evidence room and stuff like that over there. If you haven't had a tour of our jail, I encourage you to do it. We have 5 professionals that are working in the jail, and it's an interesting tour if you've never had one. It'll give you a wake-up call. I think our jail is operating fine right now. What we need is more people to do more community policing. It's like the person that steals a candy bar. It's a crime, right? A car's a crime, stealing a candy bar, it's a crime. Well, here's the thing. We don't have enough resources to go after the person that's stealing a candy bar. It's still a crime. So guess what? They get away with it. They keep stealing and stealing and stealing. I worked in a grocery store as security. I was 15 years old. I'm chasing people stealing a pack of cigarettes out in the parking lot. And now they tell us, don't do anything. We'll just write it off, Chris. We'll just write it off. And I just know that if we can get some more volunteers, it's all of our job to report crimes. Neighborhood watch programs. Say something. You know, most people just turn the other way. I will go in harm's way and do something about it because I will look out for my fellow person out there. And that's what I've done my whole life. That's just something that I do. Not everybody's comfortable doing that. But just back to the jail, I think we have a fine jail, and I think Sheriff Daniel's ready to just great. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the next question. Speaking of community policing, thank you for picking up the name tags. Next question, we're going to start right back with you, Chris. What would you do to bridge the gap between the city and county and encourage an atmosphere of cooperation between our local governments?
Perfect question. Love it. I want unity back in the community. And what that means is, as a leader in the Air Force, as a leader my whole life in business and other things I've done, I like getting everybody together and solving problems. I don't like that we're better than you. I don't like that we have to do this. Kind of like officer and enlisted in the military. You would think the officers or the bosses are over here and the enlisted force, which is the biggest force, the worker bees, don't have a voice. Well, that doesn't. In the Air Force, we all work together. And I support my commander supports me. And what we have to do is definitely work with our city government. If we can reach out to them, I've reached out to the mayor and councilors. I said, hey, I'm just a citizen. How can I help? I'm just a citizen. But if I'm a county commissioner, I definitely want to put on that hat and show you that I can go in unknown territory. Why? Because I want to know what's going on. I want to know if I could help some way down the road. Because when things happen and your resources are thin, you have to look to other agencies. I would have no problem if the city called me up and said, hey, Chris, we need some help. Do you have any resources? Well, you know what? Let me ask the sheriff if he'll help out. Or whatever it may be that we have in our county departments. Share. We cooperate. And that's what I want. And that's what we should be doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Martin.
So the city and the county, for years, have not worked together real well. I joined the Collaborative Economic Development Committee, and it's a committee between the city and the county, and that's what its role was to do, is to work together to see where there are overlaps, where we could do things where the county couldn't do things. I'm very comfortable working with the city, and I'm very comfortable working with the county in both roles, but even more so, we have to work with our legislatures for budgeting and getting money back to this county. That's one of the biggest roles. From my chamber days, the first thing they taught us is you have every official on your phone. You have your city managers, you have your commissioners, you have your legislatures, you have them on speed dial and you use it. And I did, and I have done that frequently. So I'm very comfortable doing that. I know that the chamber has they have the Government Affairs Committee and they have a Business Retention Committee. And those are partnerships that we have to keep strong and we have to work closely with. And within those is the county and the city manager or city government. There's all the city councilors. There's a large group of them. So they are working together. And in those committees, we're hearing what's going on, what the people are saying, what's out there. So I don't think it's that far off.
Wonderful, thank you. Mr. Fahey next.
I think communication is the key, and it's not just the official communication you have in a meeting like this, but it's also social. You need to know the people you're working with. I know a good number of the city councilors. I know some proposed city councilors like Indra. We've served together, and you make those relationships so they know. It gets back to the trust issue. Do you trust them? Do they trust you? It's really important. It's probably more important than you think it is. Because with that, you have a way for communication to flow and information to flow back and forth. And Colleen brought up a good point. It can't be just the city and the county. It needs to be your local legislators as well. I don't care who's elected and what party they're from, they have to work with them. So partisan politics needs to be checking in at the door, and you need to sit down and talk about what's important to the citizens of Josephine County. And most legislators understand that, and they'll work with you on that. But yeah, it's all about communication, it's all about trust. And I don't know how to get there except doing just, you got to talk to each other.
Thank you, and we will wrap this one up with Mr. Smith.
Well, I think it's important first and foremost to get back to jurisdictions and understanding that. You got to identify what areas the county government and the city government can work together on. I can name a few. I think the most important one would be housing, because most of the housing development in this county is going to be within the city limits and the city urban growth boundaries. So I would want to work with the city on that particular issue. I think another one is going to be the homeless. That's something the county can work with the city on, because it affects the county too. But then there's other things that the city would not be able to work with the county on. How are they going to work on forest issues? You see, you got to identify where the problem areas are, where the communications can be, and how you and the city can work on certain issues. I'm more than willing to work with the city on those issues where the county can help them solve some of the problems. I think housing and the homeless are two huge areas that the county can work with the city on. I think it's important to cultivate the relationships. It's important to reach out and work on some of these issues like housing. Housing is our biggest problem right now. There's a study out that you have to have a 6-figure income to buy a house in Oregon. Most locals are left out of that. We need more apartment buildings. We need more affordable housing built.
Thank you. Next question, begin with Mr. Smith. So the question is, what do you think is the best accomplishment of the county in the last 2 years?
Well, I think we've accomplished quite a bit as far as not being in big trouble. I mean, there's a lot of things that could have happened. One thing, we've got a sheriff's district, and I think that's a big step in the right direction. Public safety should be #1 duty. That was a long time coming. It's been a struggle to find stable funding for the sheriffs ever since we lost timber revenues. It's been a struggle to figure out how that's going to mix. I hate the fact that we have to go and tax the people. Unlike my opponent, I'm not for any more taxes. I just don't think people want any taxes. I think that the biggest accomplishment I can see is that we've stayed out of trouble. There's not been a lot of problems. I wish we had more autonomy in the county. I think we could see more great things done if we had more decisions that we could make locally. I think local control is a big thing that we need to work on. It's tough in a state like Oregon that's dominated by one party. And that party and the way our taxes are collected, we don't have a lot of autonomy in the way that money's spent. So biggest accomplishment, I think that the board's done a good job of keeping us out of trouble. There's a lot of things could have happened. It was tough going through COVID. That was really hard on everybody going through that. Unlike my opponent, I did not like the mandates. I didn't like the mask. Apparently, he was all for them. So, accomplishments, I think staying out of trouble and keeping our taxes fairly low. We're working on another big thing. I think that fire district's going to be a big deal.
Thank you. Next, Mr. Barnett.
Okay, that's kind of a tough one because are we going back a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years? Just 2 years, the last 2 years? Well, that'd put us coming out of COVID. And I would say standing up for our constitutional rights and our freedoms. I have to say, our county commissioners that were in there, I felt safe in Josephine County. I did not feel like my rights were taken away like some of the other cities were. Some of the other cities, they had their sheriff out there just, the mask mandates and all that stuff, which I believe everybody should have the right to be free. I just feel that. And I just felt really free in Josephine County. So I would say over the past 2 years, thank you for let me have my guns, let me protect my property, let me be free and do the best that I can do in Josephine County. This has been my home for 44 years. I love it. I'll protect it. And so I thank you, county commissioners, for upholding those constitutional rights.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Martin?
So we have, I think, 12 committees in this county, so to list all of their accomplishments would be pretty hard. But what I do know is that, and this is yet to come, that the gift that Travis Boersma gave this county with the Flying Lark for the fairgrounds to develop their master plan is going to be a huge economic driver for this county. We are going to see good things coming from that. It's going to take some time, but I know that master plan, and Tamara Martin is the right person for the job doing that, and I'm very, very excited for that. The other thing that I know is the commissioners combined the Parks Department and the fairgrounds together, and Tamara Martin is in charge of that as well. That's a big lift, but she's put in, managed to get Tom Pierce Park with a new playground, beautiful new playground. That is probably one of the most used parks that we have. She's been adding ADA to the bathrooms out at Indian Mary Park, Lake Selmac. Our Public Works Department, he keeps getting grants. He is a big driver of some of the road improvements, all of the things that are happening within the county in his department. He's gotten 3 grants to fund the bridge replacements. So you've got to give a lot of kudos to what he's doing out there. I don't know what other departments are doing. Oh, the airports. Oh my gosh, the airport continuing their grants Steve's doing a great job out there.
Thank you. Mr. Fahey?
I think the biggest one is the Rural Patrol District, stabilizing the funding on that. I make no bones about not being a big fan of the current commissioners, but I will say this. I think they handled the Flying Lark issue about as well as they could have, and I was very pleased at the plan that they did with the Fairgrounds Master Plan and how they did that. I think they should be commended for that because that was a little bit of thinking outside the box, and I think they did a good job with it. Aside from that, those are the 2 best things I can think of that the county's done this last year.
Okay.
Okay, a bit of a cycle on repeating, but we'll start the next one with Pat Fahey.
Okay.
Pat, Josephine County includes some of the poorest zip codes in Oregon. Mm-hmm. What can you do to address poverty, support businesses, and promote economic development in our county?
Well, I think there's a couple things. We need to look at those impediments to bring in new businesses into the county. Businesses look for 2 or 3 things. They need to look for infrastructure they need to have, land, construction, buildings. They need to have a qualified workforce. I serve on the RCC board, so I'm all over that. I want to provide who's ever manufacturing whatever in Josephine County, I want to be their provider of qualified help. We need to look at the rules and regulations that impede businesses in Josephine County. Some are our own making. Colleen and I took a tour out to Road Truck Bodies, and they were trying to establish a new truck line. And this is a manufacturer with 70 or 80 employees. I would call them a major employer in Josephine County. And they needed to build a new building, and they were stymied by our building department. We need to look at those things that stymie them. A good commissioner would sit on that with the planning and building department to make sure it gets done, because that new building really equates to about 30 new people working here. We need to look at that in the rest of the building department to see what do we have to do to create more housing here in Josephine County.
Thank you. Mr. Smith.
Here again, you've got to articulate the problem, and you have to look at what the cause is. Why do we have those poor zip codes? It's not always been that way in Josephine County. I think we have a problem with too much regulations. We're over-regulated, overtaxed. Unlike my opponent wanting a franchise tax on business, I would never go there. We need to open the door for these businesses, roll out the red carpet, give them some tax incentives. We have an industrial park up in Merlin, that's only half full. We have a huge industrial park out in the Illinois Valley that's way underused, and that's a long runway. So I think the problem with we have these poor zip codes is you got to look at where they're at. A lot of those zip codes have the hippie lifestyle people that are living in them, and they're just living off the government, okay? But why are we poor? We're poor because we're overregulated, overburdened, because government will not get out of the way of free enterprise. As far as government helping business, I wish they would just get out of the way and let free enterprise go. Because free enterprise will bring us an economy. We're going to have to figure out how we're going to replace the natural resources that we lost when timber was taken away, because it's not coming back. So how are we going to induce these people to come fill up our industrial park in Merlin and come out and be an industrial park and give them a tax break, roll out the red carpet, be business friendly?
Thank you. Next up, Mr. Barnett.
Well, I don't want to be a poor zip code. And if you got to vote no on Measure 118, the tax increase, a corporate tax revenue rebate for residents, it's just going to kill our businesses. You think we're poor now? If that passes through, you're going to see businesses escape out of Josephine County. They're going to escape. They're just going to leave because they're not going to want to pay that tax and give those rebates for $25 million in sales a year. I don't want to be poor like that, so vote no on that one. But tourism's a huge thing here now. My dad worked in the mills. I grew up in a timber family. Spotted owl hurt us really bad. And I was like, why can't we log? Why can't we cut the trees down? We kept fighting with the environmental issues with Salem and stuff like that. I was a young boy. I didn't know everything. But I really thought that hurt us a lot. And now the logging's gone. You still see it on the patch of the Josephine County deputies. But logging's not a big staple here anymore. I'd like to see how we can still log here and bring some of that revenue back. I know our fairgrounds, I'm excited for the fairgrounds with the expansion. I think that is a cash cow for Josephine County. If we really focus on that waterfront and the vision that they have with the fairgrounds, I think Linda Bradley, she's in the audience right now. We were at the Josephine County Fair. I was looking at that whole expansion plan. Loved it. That's going to bring in money for Josephine County. I know it. I believe in that one. The airports as well as another revenue source for Josephine County. So I'd like to focus on the fairgrounds and the airports. Thank you.
Thank you. And wrapping up this round, Ms. Martin.
I just got to say this. Those hippies, they're from the 60s, Ron, and those are our parents. Or we are them. Anyway, we've got to be business friendly. I agree. We've got to, we lost Travis. We lost Dutch Brothers to Arizona. We've got to be business friendly. We've got to keep the businesses that we have. Retention needs to be key. That needs to be at top of our mind all the time. How do we keep the businesses that we have? How do we retain Master Brand? How do we keep Rogue Valley Doors? Do you know that Taylor's Sausage has about 100 employees during this season? And Rogue Truck Body, as Pat talked about, Rogue Valley Door. We've got to attract businesses that pay well. I talked to a small business owner. He only has less than 5 employees. He says he will not pay his employees a low income. He goes, I want them to be able to buy houses. If they can't buy a house on what I pay them, then I'm a bad employer. And we need our employers to pay higher wages. We need to attract those businesses that are going to pay those wages. But again, that business retention has to be at top of mind for us. Thanks.
All right, we'll start another question with Chris Barnett. So this question is, would you recommend bringing back the 4-cent extension service tax and eventually restore funding for the county's OSU extension service?
You know, it's been a big topic. I've been at the forums, been to the meetings, and, I saw what happened. It's a travesty that what happened, but it did happen. And that really comes down to the voters. I mean, do they want to pay for something like that? I was trying to figure out at some of these meetings, the programs are great. Every program's great. But do we have to pay our tax dollars for it and support it when we have 88,000 people in Josephine County and we only have a certain amount of people that's a very, very low percentage that want it? So you're kind of off balance there. So, you know, I always think everything should go to us voters, okay? We can vote it in or vote it out. I believe in all of our programs. I just do. I think goodwill is great. But if you don't have the money for some of these things, you're going to have to cut somewhere. And I've done that as a manager, done that as a leader in the military. We've had to not do our flyovers for Grants Pass because we didn't have the gas to fly them. I schedule those every year for the F-15 flyovers. And it was a shame that we had 2 to 3 years that we could not fly over Grants Pass. So bringing that tax back, that is going to have to be left to the voters, Edith, because that is something that's dear to the heart of some people, not everybody. But I know that it's important to people. And if it's important to people, we can re-engage that conversation. So I just leave it up to the voters. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Martin?
So I think the whole situation with the 4-H, I would have handled it entirely differently. I wouldn't have blown it up, but I think that OSU Extension was at fault, and I think the commissioners were at fault. Would I bring it back? And I think the commissioners are trying to bring that back in a different format now. Yes, I would 100% support that, because I was at a CEDC meeting, the Collaborative Economic Development, with some young professionals that were complaining because there's not enough to do in this community. And we blew up Master Gardeners, which is something, we're an organic community. People like living with organic foods and canning and doing those kinds of things, farming. That's a lifestyle. That's the new age lifestyle that our young people want. My neighbor down the street, who's a professional doctor, they have a huge farm. They grow all of their own food, all of their own lambs. That's a lifestyle, and we blew that kind of out of the water. So yes, I would bring it back. We need to have these programs. We need to have programs in place. I believe that the commissioners are setting up something in place. I don't know exactly what that's going to look like. And until I'm commissioner in January, I can't make a decision on how we move forward with that.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Fahey?
Yeah, I'd bring it back. I think, and I'm not faulting the commissioners on this, I think the 4-H and OSU Extension impacts our community far more than most people realize, Master Gardeners just being one. There's other programs that most people don't realize. I'd be happy to bring it back, because I think it serves more people than we think it does. It's not just the youth of the community, which I think there's more youth in the current 4-H than we think, but also there's a lot of adults, and I think that it's invaluable in a community that's half agriculture.
Thank you. Mr. Smith?
Well, it's like so many different things. Over time, they change. 4-H had changed. They were losing kids left and right. Now, that wasn't the case when the tax was passed. They had a lot of children in that. But over time, everything seems to change. I used to deal with the Forest Service a lot, and they changed. I would have to see what they're going to do. I mean, if they followed their mission statement, yeah, we could maybe think about it. But Youth and Ag is doing a fine job. They're privately funded. They're growing. They got all the kids in there. There's not hardly any kids in 4-H. There was hardly any kids for a lot of times. Youth and Ag is privately funded. It's growing. It's teaching them. OSU Extension, yeah, I mean, with the state and the money they waste, how come they can't fund it?
Thank you, candidates. For the next question, we are going to begin with Ron Smith. Do you support a fire district?
I do. I support a citizen-driven fire district. I think it's a needed thing in our county. I think we're taking the right steps forward. The commissioners have already started the ball rolling. First step will be getting a board of directors elected and let them decide how they're going to structure this fire district. And then they're going to have to decide, and I think they're going to have to talk a lot to the people. How much are the people willing to pay? How much are you willing to pay? I mean, this always comes down to your pocketbook. The government doesn't have any money but what they take from you first. So what are you willing to pay for these services? How much are you going to pay for law enforcement? How much are you going to pay for a fire district? You see, the thing I don't want to see is I don't want to see the fire district be a monopoly for a corporation that doesn't even have anything to do with our county. I don't want to see that. That's why I was opposed to it before. But if it's citizen-driven and the citizens want to pay for it, I support the idea. We definitely need one here. We definitely need a fire district here. But the question is, you guys that live in this district, you're going to have to answer the question, what do you want to pay for it? How much do you want to pay for fire service? It's necessary. I support the idea. But it's really not up to us. The commissioners have really put the ball rolling. Now it's up to the citizens to decide what they want, how much you're willing to pay. Trouble is, I see with the rural fire districts, you live very far from a fire station, about all they're going to save is your foundation.
Thank you, and on to Mr. Barnett.
Great question, and the fire district, I'm more open to it now than I was before. I didn't really know about it. I sat down with Chief Austin Prince, good friend of mine from high school, now he's a chief at Rural Metro. Sat down with him and another chief for 2 hours a couple weeks ago. And I said, tell me about this fire district. How do you sell this to the voters? How does this, because voters are scared about increasing their taxes. How are we going to do this? Well, he explained it to me that they want to get a fire district so they can have more teeth in doing what they do, like enforcing rules and regulations out in the county as far as tall grass, giving them fines or warning them and telling them some things. You can't do that when you're a private entity, but you can if you're a fire district. Also, he can apply for grants, get better equipment, and get some monies down here from sources that the state already has. Illinois Valley is a fire district, Williams, and some other areas around here, but right around the Grants Pass area, we do not have that. So after sitting with Austin Prince, I'd be open to that as long as it didn't cost the taxpayers more money, and he said it wouldn't right away. He said, we just want to form a board. Then later on, it would go to the taxpayers if they have to increase it. But get involved by learning more about it, because honestly, I've had Rural Metro for years. I just paid and expect them to show up. So people are a little confused about what a fire district is. So more education on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Move over to Ms. Martin.
Yes, I would support I do and will support a fire district. I too talked to Austin Prince for a couple hours, and Rural Metro is an employer in this community. They need to be respected. They are open to a fire district, all of them. I went to almost every fire department in Grants Pass except I think 2, and to visit the firemen, to see how they felt about it, because that's important to me, because those are the workers, those are the retention, those are the people paying the property taxes, those are the people that are out there working, and we need them. They're open to it. Rural Metro is a great resource for where we are now, and they will be a resource in the future for how we do that. The question to the top of mind to me is a strategic plan. We start here, and how do we get to here? And what does that look like? How can we be transparent to the public to say, we're going to start off with a district now that belongs to you with 0 money, to getting up to here, which is going to cost a lot of money again, which is going to be a tax. How do you get there? And that's the part that I'm confused about, and that is going to take some work, and that's going to take getting the community involved in that and understanding. You have a fire district, that's going to be a tax on your properties, but you're not going to be paying Rural Metro again that fee. So there's a balance there, and I think we can get there.
Thank you. And wrapping this one up, Mr. Fahey.
Yeah, absolutely. I support a fire district. I've worked on other ones beforehand that have been unsuccessful. I'm hoping this one with the commissioner's support will be successful. And the one thing that hasn't been said so far that should make a difference to some people is that if you have a fire district, the taxes you pay in the district are deductible. So it helps you on your personal income taxes. I look forward to that. I own several pieces of property, all covered by Rural Metro, that will now be covered by the new district if it gets in place. And I realize the challenge in this isn't so much passing at this point in time, but getting a rate. and determining what that rate's going to be. And that, I hope there's a lot of discussion and citizen input on that. And the other thing I'd like to see is a vibrant volunteer component to it. Most of the rural fire departments we have out in Cave Junction, Ivy, are all volunteer. That can be very successful, and I'd be looking forward to that as well.
Okay, on to another question. And Colleen Martin gets to start. This question is, Grants Pass and Josephine County have a shortage of affordable housing for families, individuals, retirees, workers. What can the county do to create more housing and keep housing affordable?
Great question. So our regulations come from the state, and that is where we get stuck. We're stuck with that. And we've got to work with our state legislatures to get these regulations less restricted. The less restrictions we have, the more housing we can build, the more cost-effective it is. The state keeps flowing down from the state that you must build your houses with these certain requirements, and those costs just keep rising. So until we get the state on board with less regulations, it's going to be hard for us to do it, but we've got to work with our legislatures to quit regulating us, to give us some tax credits, to give us some incentives. We've got to be incentivized from the state to build, and they need to be involved. So it's not just something we as a county can do. We've got to work with the state on that.
Thank you. Mr. Fahey?
I think we need to look at everything we require a homeowner or a developer to do, because I think there's some that are they're silly. I recently built a house, and before I started building the house, I had to fill out a form about who's my fire protection person. So I filled out rural metro, and it's a complicated form. How steep is your driveway? How long is your driveway? Can we get a fire truck in there? Well, the house took roughly about 2 years to build. And before we could pick up our occupancy permit, I had to go through the same form again. And I asked the question, why do we have to do this twice? I've done it once. And the answer was, well, that's just the way we do things around here. I think that's the wrong answer. I think the answer should be leaning more towards yes than no. I have a classic story to tell about building inside the city of Grants Pass. We built a processing center on Redwood Avenue. If you drive into town from Cave Junction on the highway and you look at the roof that faces the west on that building, you'll see 3 dormers, totally useless, just for looks. You turn around and go the other direction, they're not there. We've adopted Portland architectural standards. We need to look at everything we ask a developer and a builder to do and start taking things off that list instead of putting things on. If we have to work with the legislature, I'd be glad to work with the legislature to do that.
Thank you. And
far-
Mr. Smith?
As far as the county's going to have to work with the city and the state. The problem is the state is not very friendly to housing in rural areas. If any of you know about the Senate Bill 762 and their wildfire hazard map that they passed, they just have made it very much more difficult to build in the rural parts of Josephine County with that law. Do nothing to stop wildfires, but it definitely does attack property rights. So you're going to have to work with the city. The cities is where most of these houses are going to be built. But also in the county, we can streamline the processes at planning. We can cut some of the red tape. We need to make it easier for people to build their homes. Permits costs should go down. I understand that people have to pay a lot of money on permits. But you got to understand that Senate Bill 100 took a lot of the control away from the county and put it in the state's hands. So there's a lot of things we'd like to do to get more housing. But the state tied us up.
Okay, thank you. And now Chris Barnett,
Okay.
sorry. One
So, I was just talking about this one too. I'm in the real estate business. Housing is a priority. I love putting people into housing. If you go by Harbeck, there's HUD housing right there. Beautiful apartment complexes that are built there. Matter of fact, my radio interview was just talking about that today. How can we do that in the county? Because if you want affordable housing, you're not going to build single-family residential homes. You're just not going to do it. The salaries can't keep up, the wages can't keep up. But what you can do is have nice apartment complexes, have your own place. It's the American dream to have your own place. I did it. I lived in an apartment growing up, loved it. It was simple, maintenance was easy, and I had affordable housing. But we got to loosen up those regulations in the county, which means we have to work with our state legislators, our state representatives, and get Salem to give the rights back to the county. There's a bunch of red tape in government trying to build anything. I've done it. It is horrible. The process to build something and actually make your dream happen, it gets killed really quick when they start charging fee after fee and telling you can't do this and can't do that. Ron was right. I mean, we got to loosen up those regulations, and I would like to work on that with our state representatives to give us more powers to loosen those up for you, so you guys can be developers and develop housing out there. But I think the best way to solve the housing crisis, build more apartment complexes in the county, loosening up those zoning regulations. Thank you.
Okay, this will be the final question before we move into closing statements, and we will begin this question with Pat Fahey. What projects for the county would you champion in the coming years?
Well, that's a tough one. First one that's pretty easy is reinstating 4-H. I think that we need to put the welcome mat out. So we need to rejoin those organizations we left, like So Ready, because I don't think developers or manufacturers really know about Josephine County. We've kind of closed it all off. And I think the only success we're going to have is by bringing in more jobs. I think personally I'd take a long look at the process we have for building development in Josephine County. If that means I have to set up a desk in the planning department, I guess I can do that. I really want to be involved in that. After doing what I've done, building what I've done here, seeing the impediments we all deal with, I think that would be my biggest thing. First thing is complete the reinstating of the 4-H. It'd probably be my first step.
Thank you. Mr. Smith.
Hey, repeat the question because I want to make sure I answer it.
Sure. The question is, what projects for the county would you champion in the coming years?
Well, I think I spoke about them. The Maryland Industrial Park is a good thing to champion. The Illinois Valley has a very, very strong possibility of being a good source of jobs for the Illinois Valley because that runway is huge. I'd like to champion that idea. The idea of getting those industrial parks full. But that's going to take cutting some red tape, rolling out the red carpet. I think we ought to start our own little advisory committee right here in the county to go out and find these businesses that would like to settle here. I think part of that equation is Chris's answer. We need more apartment buildings. In the county, it's kind of tough because you got the septic system and your water system and all that kind of stuff. Hard for multifamily dwellings in the county. But in those industrial parks and courting business and bringing them here, Southern Oregon, we can sell what we have. We have a beautiful, beautiful valley. We have a beautiful climate. We actually have a workforce here that's willing to work. I mean, I've never had a problem getting somebody to come work for me. So I think it's important to look at those kinds of things. Bring business in, roll out the red carpet, be business friendly, give them some incentives. What's the reason a person want to bring their business here? What are we going to do to entice them to come to our county? Oh, you come to Grants Pass because some of the higher taxes in the state. That'll get them here. All right. So how are we going to entice people to come to this county? We got to give them some incentives. We got to keep the taxes low and roll out the red carpet.
Thank you. Mr. Barnett.
Well, one thing the Air Force taught me is to aim high. I use that slogan all the time as a still serving veteran. I have a lot of things I want to champion. Public safety for all citizens and reignite that reserve program. I can try, right? That's what I'm going to do. Put trust back in government. I told you that tonight. I would like to work with our cities and our other cities, not just Grants Pass, Cave Junction, Williams, Wolf Creek, Sunny Valley. Work in our communities. Unity back in the community. I want us to all get along. I want us to get along, okay? That is a big thing of mine. Keep taxes low and the budget balanced within our means. If we don't have the money, we've got to budget it correctly. Loosen regulations on housing and protect your property rights. So that's a big thing for all of us. The American dream is housing. I want to make sure veterans keep their vital services and honor them. You know, we have that sign on the freeway. I pass it all the time. We honor veterans. What does that mean? I don't feel like I'm being honored all the time here, and that's okay. But I would like to make sure our veterans feel like they're honored here. More patriotism in our county. Not just the city, but our county. And I also want to promote commerce. I'm a big business advocate, a Chamber of Commerce member. I go out and do reviews at businesses. I love seeing businesses thrive because they're going to stay here. People are going to feel good about going out and having a good time. So I got a lot of things I want to get to work, and I want to do it tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Martin?
So the first thing I want to work on is economic development. I want to get a motel in Cave Junction. The airport out there has recently hired 2 mechanics at the airport, which is going to attract people from all over the state and probably Northern California to bring their planes there to get them serviced, to get them repaired. And that they have no place to stay out there. We do have the new KOA campground, which is beautiful and going to be is a great attraction out there, because when I was at the chamber and we did tourism, I worked in tourism for 12 years, we would send people out to Cave Junction. Well, where can we stay? Well, there is no motel. There is no place to stay. Where can we camp? There is no place to camp, really. There's just a couple spots. So Cave Junction is a huge target for economic growth and economic development. And talk about a welcome mat. Those people out there have it. I'm really excited to work with them. I'm really excited to work with Tamara on the projects that she's going to create at the fairgrounds. I want to create a housing strategy. This community has got to come together with a strategy on how we are going to do housing and how that's going to work, whether it's low-income housing, whether it's workforce housing, professional housing. We need it all, and we've got to have a strategy to get there, and we don't have one. We've got everybody working out there doing their things, and they're all doing great things, and I don't discredit them, but we need a strategy for that.
Wonderful. Thank you. And Mr. Fahey?
I went first. I can do it again.
You
if
want to do it
me
again?
But, I heard a lot of good ideas so far, so I got some things I can use.
Okay, well then with that, we are done with questions. We will move into closing comments. So a reminder, you have 2 minutes during this session, and we will begin with Chris Barnett.
All right, thank you everybody for joining tonight. It's very important that we get involved in our government, right? So thank you. I commend you, applaud you. Terry, Chamber of Commerce, and Edith Decker of the Courier, thank you. You guys are community partners. It's not easy running for public office. Not easy at all. All of us candidates have been attacked in one way or another. I hate that part. Lies and people make up stuff and this and that. Why? I just want to get to work, okay? So I just want to say I'm for God, I'm for family, I'm for country and freedom and service. Those are just my values. I'm pro-Second Amendment, pro-life, pro-private property rights, and I'm basically for the Constitution. I've served and raised my hand my whole life. People ask me, why do I have that salute guy on my sides? I've done that my whole life. It's service. It's just giving back. It's service, and I think we're missing that today. Thank you for coming here, and I hope you choose wisely for us candidates. Look at all of our backgrounds. Look at who really is going to represent you when it comes to the table. Who has the guts to go in there and do the tough stuff that some people will not do? I will do that. I will go in unknown territory and try my best. With my vast, diverse background and experience in leadership, government, business, and community service, I feel that I am ready for this next chapter of my life and serve you, the citizens of Josephine County. I want to put my experiences to work, help Josephine County, which needs more help than ever, to provide services to you in the future. I want to build bridges and put you, the citizens, first. I want to be your voice as I will go in territory, like I said, that no other people will go into. I want to be your representative and serve you well. With all my various positions and jobs I've had in 43 years, I juggle. I can do many different things at one time, and I can do it. And you have to be being a commissioner. For my background, go to votechrisbarnett.com. I hope I earn your vote for November 5th. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Martin.
Thank you, Terry. Thank you, Edith from the Courier. Thank you to the people that are here, and thank you to the audience that is watching. And thank you to whoever spelt my name correctly. If you know, you know. A commissioner is responsible for overseeing the county's management and administration, representing county interest at the state and federal levels, participating in long-range planning, and managing the county budget and finances. The question to you, the voters, who you think is going to best represent you? I have a pragmatic and a nonpartisan approach to problem solving and providing good governance. Goal setting, money management, business ethics, honesty, integrity, and transparency. Yes, I am a conservative, but I also have the ability to be fair and unbiased to serve each citizen, because no matter whether you are a Republican, a Democrat, or an unaffiliated voter, you are probably a property owner, a business owner, a taxpayer, and a citizen of this county. I am a friend and supporter of local businesses. I have a deep understanding and firsthand experience of how state government and affects Josephine County will be a vital resource. With over a decade of experience serving the county's business owners, I come with a clear vision of how to support a thriving economy. I am the most experienced candidate to work with budgets, staff, and overall policy making. As I said in my opening, I have an unwavering commitment to the safety of our community. My focus is on fiscal responsibility and existing budgets and fostering economic growth. I will work with existing housing and mental health providers to get this community back on track. My intention is to unite our county to be aligned in creating policies that address the concerns of our valuable community members, create an environment that cultivates and invites the talent of our county employees, and encourage them to serve you, the citizens. As a mom, wife, daughter, and a grandmother, I promise to bring my decades of work and life experience to serve the county. Finally, I ask you to check the box for Colleen Martin.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Fahey.
First of all, I'd like to thank the audience. I realize Thursday evening is this is probably not the place you want to be. And I also like to thank my fellow commissioner candidates and the other candidates in the room. Anybody that's ever done this, no, it's not necessarily easy. I entered this race about a year ago, and it's been kind of a journey. And as most journeys go, the interest lies in the people you meet. I've met some amazing people, from an elderly gentleman needed help in his mobile home park, to a young woman that needed some relief in the flooding situation in her property. I've talked to seniors in their 90s, to high school students in their teens, from business owners to the homeless. I've received almost 250 individual contributions from large and small from people in this county. And yes, I wrote a thank you note to each and every one of them. The one thing all those people have in common is a belief that Josephine County can do better. We need to move beyond the blatant cronyism that we see every day. We need to make important decisions based on what is best for all citizens, not just to fulfill a political agenda or help our buddies. We, the citizens of Josephine County, are a diverse bunch, obstinate, opinionated. Some unkind soul might even call us bullheaded, but we almost all agree that honesty and integrity counts. We want a commissioner that we can be proud of, and I hope to be that commissioner. As I draw to a close, I'd like the audience to remember that regardless of your political orientation, we all are neighbors in this wonderful county. And come November 6th, we need to come together as a family and put aside the harsh words and rhetoric and become true neighbors once again. My name is Pat Fahey. I'm running for County Commissioner, and I'm asking for your vote.
Thank you. And wrapping up this evening's forum, we'll go to Ron Smith.
Well, I want to thank the Chamber and the Courier for hosting the event. I especially want to thank all the audience here and online. It's an opportunity to get to know your candidates. I'm running as a People's Commissioner, and I want to give you 5 good reasons why I say People Commissioner. One, I've been out there in the county working defending your property rights, your liberties and freedoms for over 25 years. And I'd like to continue that as your commissioner, to protect your rights. As you all know, our rights are being whittled away piece by piece. So I really want to protect the rights we have left, our freedom of speech and our property rights. I'll do that as your commissioner. 2, because when you elect me, you get a man of integrity. Somebody that you'll always listen to your problems and hear your problems. I'll never forget that I work for and serve the people. I believe in a representative form of government, and when I'm in office, I'm your voice. I'm going to represent you. I'm going to represent the people and their needs, because that's what a representative form of government does. 3, I'm a team player. I'm just like you. I'm not a politician. I want the same things you want. I want a transparent, physically responsible, and a government that's open and we can depend on it. We just want an honest government that's going to represent us. And that's what I want to bring to the table. I have a lot of years in management that can help bring that to the table. 4, I don't have any hidden agendas. I want to be your voice and your ears inside a local government. I want to represent you the people. That's what this is all about. You're hiring somebody who's going to represent you, and I'm that guy. And 5, as a conservative, I am proud that I'm the only seat 3 candidate endorsed by the Josephine County Republican Party and the Oregon Right to Life. I'm the only one of seat 3 candidates endorsed by those guys.
All right, thank you. That concludes our forum. We want to thank all the attendees, both in person and at RVTV. This is being recorded. I said taped last time. There's no tape anymore. Sorry about that. We want to thank especially the candidates for their participation and their deeply held commitment to their ideals and their collective concern for the betterment of our county. And for anyone who would like to see this or you'd like to direct them to it after the fact, this forum, as well as the forum we did on Tuesday with the city candidates, is going to be available on YouTube at the Chamber's website or YouTube site. And you'll want to look for Grants Pass and Josephine County Chamber of Commerce, and people can watch both of those. So thank you very much, and good evening, everyone.
Well, good luck to you too.